Hi guys, as the late Max Bygrave said, I want to tell you a story. This video's going to be a little bit different, and I guess I'm not really making it for you, I'm making it for myself to remind me of the story of two men who never met, um, and the man who changed my life. I guess, where does it start? Well, it started when I was looking at our site's analytics. And as I was looking at it, I was reminded of my time when I used to trade stocks and shares. Yeah, I've done that. But I guess we have to go back to where it all started before I can tell you about the death of David Horgan. So let's go back to where it all started. Black Monday, October the 19th, 1987. I can remember that day like it was yesterday. I'd started work at JP Morgan. I was working on the database for Mercury Asset Management, one of the bigger eye rollers in the city. Every night we'd go get hammered in the arbitrager or the bar options. And this was the day of the yuppies. And I regret to say I was one of the biggest pricks out there, swilling champagne at £34 a bottle in 1987. Oh well, I've been at the top, I've been at the bottom, up, down like a yo-yo my life has been. Anyhow, I've started work at JP Morgan's. I'm working for Mercury Asset Management. Incidentally, later on, I would be approached and asked if I could get a copy of their database, of their client list, worth a small fortune in the right hands. Well, I'd like to think I've always been an honourable man, and I just brushed it off and told the guy inquiring not to be ridiculous, not to ask me again, otherwise I'd have to speak to someone. Damn, I could have been really rich. Damn integrity. Anyhow, Monday, October 19th, 1987. I was one of the first to see the market crash. I walked in early, as was my wont, round about 7:30 in the morning, and a young man, he was a former guards officer. I can't quite remember his name. If I think it'll come back. But as I walked through the doors, he said, "Paul, you've got to come and see this." And I walked over and he said, "Look at the boards." And there was a huge wall with all the share prices of all the companies that were being traded. The trading floor was up on the top floor, ranks and ranks of traders. I could tell you a story about how I almost closed it down by giving copies of a trading game to the real life traders, and they started trading in the game instead of trading the markets. But that's a different story. Anyhow, I looked up at the wall and every single screen was red, really red. And that was Monday, October the 19th, 1987. Ah, well, the world took a pasting. And as it says here, it was the biggest stock market crash in a single day ever. Well, I didn't let that put me off, because I also met then a young vice president, a female actually. By the way, vice president, there's lots of vice presidents in an organization, so it's not just one person. There could be a dozen or more vice presidents. It's a rank. And so I met a young woman, a director on the top floor. One day I was helping her out with a PC problem. I was doing tech support as well as maintaining a database. And she gave me a quicker run around on how to trade the stock market. First time I'd ever seen a touch screen. Yeah, they had them way back then in 87, touch screens. Thought it was amazing. Well, she got me introduced to the stock market, and I started trading the markets whilst I was working. I bought this book. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. There we go. Technical Analysis of the Financial Markets. Big book. That book changed my life. I read it, studied it, read it again, studied it. Then I started trading. Opened up a ShareScope account. Got myself an online trading account. A real-time online trading account. And I was into it. And I was making money. A lot of money. As well as the money I was making for contracting. So I carried on that for years. And at one point, I thought that I can't afford to work. I'm losing too much money by working and not just trading the markets. And then this happened. I was working, fixing computer systems, recoding, legacy code, preparing for the year 2000. Some of you might remember back then they thought the world was going to end in 2000 because the computers wouldn't be able to handle the year 2000, because when the original programs were written, they didn't think they would get into the year 2000. And so they couldn't cope. And so people like me were earning another fortune, getting the computers ready. I was doing it for Sun Alliance and the post office simultaneously. Well, whilst there, I was still trading away. I had a mobile setup so I could keep an eye on the stocks and shares. And I tell you what, there is nothing more exhilarating or frightening than watching your share price drop and you want to bail out fast. Well, in the year 2000, the stock market took a dive, and boy, did it crash big. And I lost, no, my profits were completely slashed. But fortunately, I remembered Black Monday. And in the interim period, I had this made. Can you see it? Cut losses, run profits. Don't break the rules. I had that made because I was always breaking the rules. I knew that sometimes I would hold on to a stock longer than I should because I hoped that it would bounce back. However, I decided to bail. I'd lost thousands out of my profits when this happened, and I just wasn't prepared to go through what they went through on Black Monday. So I bailed, liquidated all my stock, and walked away with just £12,000 profit. I suppose, yeah, some people might think that was a lot at the time, but it was nothing compared to what I was earning as an IT contract manager. So I bailed out, I walked away with £12,000, and that was enough to pay a third of a deposit on quite a large house, a second house. So where is this going, you ask? Well, when I was looking at our channel analytics, that is what reminded me of my days as a trader. And I wondered about one particular sharing company. Its stock code was PET. Sometimes they refer to them as epic codes. This is the company. Petrel Resources. I invested heavily in Petrel Resources, and I didn't like to bail on them because of the guy who was behind it. I believed in this guy. I followed him. And this is the guy who kind of changed my life and whose death I will tell you about. So looking through the prices, just for old time's sake, you can see their current prices, 0.995 euros. When I bailed, they were 49 euros. I think I had bought at 65 euros. So I taken a hit, but I had to bail. So I was looking at it thinking, oh, poor old David, he never did find his El Dorado or the liquid gold. So I was scrolling down and then I saw this. Death of David Horgan. I'd never met the man, but I'd followed him for a long, long time. I held on to those shares longer than I should have. I broke my rule of cut losses, run profits. I'd broken my own rule, but I believed in this man. I believed he would succeed one day. So why did I hang on to my shares in PET longer than I should have? Well, it was because of David Horgan. This is what they said about him. The death of David Horgan. It is with the deepest sadness that we announce the passing of David Horgan. David was a co-founder and chairman of Petrel Resources. David, aged 66 at the time of his death, was born in Belfast, had his primary education in Dublin. This guy was a born adventurer. Right, let's see what John Teelan and Jim said in the joint command. There's two names from the past. The death of David Horgan is a deep personal and loss to each of us. In over 3 decades together, we have created, financed, managed, and listed a series of early-stage exploration adventures in a variety of natural resources. He reveled in high-stakes, high-risk resource exploration. Suppose we were a bit similar there. He was an explorer, high risk, and I was taking high risks in the stock market. Fields, traveling in dangerous territories, traipsing across swamps or exploring long abandoned mines. He spoke 8 languages. After 10 days in a new country, he conversed with locals in their own language. The guy was just something else. And when I got researching Pet and I discovered who he was, I thought, I'm going to follow this guy and I'm going to back him and I'm going to invest in his company because a man like him is sure to succeed. And I think he would have if death hadn't stopped him. So I invested in PET just as David set out for South America. I followed him as he built a road through a jungle, a log road. I'd wait for updates. They'd send out updates, companies would then, of the progress. Mile after mile, day after day, week after week, share price rising. Got quite high at one stage. I should have sold, but no, I wanted to see if David could win. And I regret to say, after following him through the jungle, in my mind, I followed him through the swamps, through the jungle, building the roads, moving the equipment, and then they started to drill. And the first signs were good. There was some gas, but no oil. Well, it was round about that time that the market actually did crash. And I thought, sorry, David, I'm going to have to leave you here in the jungle. And I walked away. Could have walked away with much more if I'd followed my own rules, but there you go. So I guess that's why I'm making this video. Here he is. played a big part in my life. Petrel Resources. I don't regret the money I lost. It was worth it for the ride. Ah, bye, David. Bye, people.